What's up, guys, and welcome back to Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and as always, I'm here with my wonderful co host, Justine. If it's your first time here, Stereotherapy is a podcast that showcases the importance of music and mental health. As always, if you're liking what you are hearing, remember to share, like, and subscribe to the podcast. It really helps us out and would mean a lot to Justine and I. You can do that anywhere you're listening to this right now, or you could head over to our website at www.stereotherapypod.com. And you can also leave us a rating. Let us know what you're liking, what we should improve on, and all that good stuff. Today, we are going back to the 90s. And I know on the previous podcast, we dove in already. But with that one, there were some audio issues. And obviously, with the relaunch, that episode is erased. So I wanted to go right back into it. And obviously, it's a different way for any of the newer listeners. And also, we have Justine here. So it's going to be a different and fun thing. And we will be breaking this up into two parts because there's a lot in the 90s. But before we dive into that, Justine, how have you been? It's been a minute since we last recorded. So what's going on with you? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm tired. I had a late babysitting gig last night. But I'm here and I'm ready to talk about some music.
Right?
How about you?
Uh good. I had a crazy hectic week. Anyone that knows me personally, I'll just say that. Not to go into it, but everything is good. I want everyone to know everything's good. Very, very good. But very hectic, chaotic week, but also a great week because after we were sitting on our last episode with Zach, like I love that people have been really listening to the episodes and really kind of taking them all in, and it's been exciting to see that. So that's been really cool, and just excited to talk about the 90s again, because, like, I
Oh
know
yeah.
when we teamed up for this, I was like, "We gotta do the 90s again," and it was like, I know we did it, but let's just dive right back in, and just with everything, I think that's what's fun about this when we could jump on and record is like, okay, anything else going on, good or bad? It's like, we're just talking music. So it's good. It's where we get to just sit here and talk to music and, all about that good
Yeah,
stuff. So it really helps. So it's like good. So
exactly. Like this is I feel like the high point of both of our weeks is when
yeah.
we get to sit and talk to each other about music and the stuff that keeps us going. And I know anybody that knows me knows that I still mentally live in the 90s. So
Mm.
this is exciting for me to be able to feel about. So,
Well, good, good. It'll be good because and like I said, we'll talk about how they've impacted us and maybe some mental health topics will be in there too, because there was a lot going on then. And I think
yeah.
um for me, I have to talk the first band I'm going to talk about. I have to, even though it was on the other podcast, I'm going to because it is so important. And if I didn't, I know somebody would call me all on it already, but for me, I have to start with Nirvana. Like, it I have to because I've said it to before, but seeing that candlelight vigil surrounding, like, all over MTV, well, it wasn't MTV2 at the time, just MTV, and Kurt Cobain, and seeing everybody just it was such an impactful moment because it was always making me wonder, how can all these people care about someone they have never met? And I was young. I had to be like, what, 8 maybe? Like, oh god, I can't do the math. I'm
Well,
37.
he died in 94, right?
So, yeah. So, I don't know. I had to be 8 or 7. I was young, but knowing that and seeing that when he passed, it kinda stuck with me, and it kinda sticks with me now when we see anyone that passes, it's like, I get it now, though, but at that young age, it was like, why does everybody care about this musician passing when they don't know him? And from then on, I was like, I'm gonna dive headfirst into Nirvana. My parents had Nevermind and Utero, like, they had all that music, and I was lucky to be surrounded by it, but I dove headfirst into that, and it was, like, years later as I grew up, still listening to Nirvana, still loving Kurt Cobain, and just I get it now. I get it. I get how you can be so impacted by a musician, and I think during that time too, it really showed that even back then with mental health and when Kurt had taken his own life, and it's still back then, this stuff wasn't talked about, and, even now we talk about it too, and the stigma back then was even bigger, and it's like, there were so many speculations, and it was just wild, and I think even though Nirvana and Kurt as a whole were so massive and amazing, to know he was struggling so bad, even it just is I don't know how to describe it, but it just is like, this is really just awful. You could be going through that and at the same time be on this large stage where we're all, you have him on a pedestal. So many people held him to that and he was struggling. And I think that just a crazy time in the 90's. And I think for me, for Nirvana, like I credit them for sort of creating this love of alternative music in me. And I constantly find myself gravitating towards this loud, gritty, and less than perfect sounding music because I mean, let's be honest, like Nirvana did sound less than perfect, but that's what I think made them so perfect in every single way. Um, they kind of sounded like that you plugged into a garage or basement and but on a bigger level, but they were just something about them was just so special. And I mean, it just finding them, I was that alternative kid. I never really was that pop kid, and I have to credit them for that. And I know that seems so far-fetched to believe an 8-year-old would just be all in, but it fit, and I think musically it definitely led me down that path, and Kurt Cobain is definitely someone that truly changed my life, and I think, you know, it really is something to look back on that had I not saw that candlelight vigil, had I not dove headfirst. I mean, I wonder what path would I have gone through in music? Like, would I have gone through the alternative and dug deep, or would I have been on a completely different path? And I mean, I know everyone loves Nevermind, and that record is iconic for so many reasons, but In Utero is like that's my favorite record by Nirvana, and I think it just I still at 37 listen to Nirvana and feel the same way as I did, and I'm just so lucky to have although I never got to see them, but I'm able to at least always go back to their music and feel that impact. Um, but I mean, for Justine, like, how I guess, how do you think Nirvana has been impactful to music, uh, either back then or even now? Because they're still so impactful now, which is just wild.
Yeah, and I think that their impact's gonna be seen, like, well into the future, honestly. Um, like, they were so progressive, playing about things that people didn't like talking about as well, like, being open about things like feminism, which, you know, for men in the 90's, it wasn't really seen that much, you know?
Mhm.
But Kurt was pretty outspoken about that. And obviously they were pretty pro gay rights back then even too, because like that's one reason why like Kurt would put on dresses and
Mhm.
was very encouraging about the LGBT back then, which was, not heard of very much, especially with men.
No.
Um, and I admittedly did not get into them until I was older. Um, because for me, unfortunately, a lot of guys forget to this day, I feel, about what Kurt's beliefs were.
Oh, for
Because,
sure.
like, you have a lot of like conservative men that listen to Nirvana now, and those are the type of people that Kurt probably would have kicked out of a show,
Oh my god,
honestly.
100%, 100%. I say that all the
Yeah.
time when I see stuff like that.
And so I feel like being surrounded by men like that who liked Nirvana kind of turned me off of them for a while. And so this is going to be a hot take, and this might upset quite a few fans of Nirvana. I feel like anybody who accuses Courtney Love of killing him
Mhm,
has a lot of that internalized men cannot have mental health issues, because it was all there. He struggled severely with his mental health from like a really young age,
mhm.
and he also had health issues, like he had things wrong with his stomach.
Yes.
And that's one reason why he was an addict, because he was in pain quite a bit from his stomach. And with all of that, obviously he struggled. So the idea of trying to say that this woman who loved him very much, by the way, I don't care if you like her or not, she
Right.
loved this man. And for you to perpetuate that, and I think would have Kurt rolling in his grave, honestly, because like I said, he was a feminist. So for you to be
Mhm.
like, obviously this woman that I don't like obviously was the one that killed him, I think is absolute nonsense, whether you like her or not. Um, and I think it just perpetuates the idea that men that are very well loved can't do this to themselves, which is
Mhm.
absolutely ridiculous.
And I think it's not even men. I mean, although
Yeah,
talking about that
it's not even men, because I
because
do know women too that feel that way too.
yeah, or people, yeah, just in general, like so many people think that at times that, oh, well, if you have, and I've had people even say that to me about my mental illness, right? And like them say, oh, well, you have this. Why can't you can't have anxiety or you can't
Yeah.
deal with depression. You can't have had these thoughts. And it's like, yes, yes, you can. And I mean,
Mhm.
it's yeah, I think I agree with you with the whole Courtney thing. I've always sided with you and other people in that
Yeah.
we as a society have to also stop blaming people. Like I know it's easy sometimes when
Yeah.
terrible things happen, you want somebody to blame because it just makes it I don't know, like easier, whatever we want to call it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I side with you 100% in that. It drives me crazy. So
I don't, it's just like, it's that conspiracy theory and thinking that, like you said, like it's putting him up on a pedestal of like
Mhm.
godlike,
Yes. Still,
tendencies, which he hated. He did like he did not like that, and
no.
so like you're just perpetuating things that he didn't stand for. And I feel like a lot of times, if that's something that you've just like been headstrong about, maybe sit back and think about it a little more, and think about it from the perspective of his beliefs. And I highly encourage everybody to watch Montage of Heck,
Yes.
um, because it is a wonderful, probably the best documentary I've ever seen about him. And it
Mhm.
was made by both like uh his daughter, Frances Bean, and Courtney Love helped with it too. And I'm pretty sure there was other people in his life as well that helped it with it too. And it's like recordings that nobody had heard of him talking and all of this. And it's just beautifully done. And I highly suggest everybody watch that if you
Oh,
haven't already.
absolutely, because G and I just watched that one a little bit ago because as we're doing this podcast, Gio listened to us and he's like, it motivates him to listen to or dive into whatever we're talking about. And when I told him we were redoing this one, and he knows how much I just adore Nirvana. And I know some people they think a different way, but for me, they will always be just that band and still to this day that I put on. They're so
Yeah.
important in my life and made such that impact, but we watched that and he was just like, "Wow, I didn't know all this stuff." Like even him
Yeah.
like and he's not a huge Nirvana fan by any means, but he respects and knows the level of what they've done for music and continue
Yeah.
to do as newer and younger kids maybe grow up with their parents and listen to Nirvana and or find out who Kurt Cobain is and just see whatever it is on, and I feel right now he's if not even just as famous or I don't know, dare I even say even more than when he was still with us because people still hold him and Nirvana to that godlike status. I mean, and as
Yeah.
I mean, look, they're incredible and they were incredible and impacted music and it just that's wild. That's wild to still see. And I think that just shows
I
again
know.
how impactful because when you talk about bands and their impact, like they're still impacting people today. And even new people that are like, oh, Spotify, TikTok, whatever it is, they're discovering them.
Yeah. And it's going to continue, I'm sure. And it's one of those things too, I think, with the whole like pedestal and like godlike treatment of musicians, it's kind of like that parasocial kind of thing, right? Where we put all of this on them, right? And we think of them as more than just people. But I
Mhm.
feel like, especially in our generation, like we have been able to meet quite a few of our musicians that we follow, right? And I feel like that has kind of helped, at least me personally, not have that complex as much. Like, yes, I'm still gonna fangirl a little bit because I am human and these people have helped me, you know what I mean? But like, I feel like because you're not able to ever like meet Kurt obviously now,
Mhm.
um, just almost perpetuates that feeling sometimes too, where I'll never meet him and his music was so impactful for a short period of time. And it might perpetuate the feeling of him being in a godlike status. But luckily we still have like Dave Grohl
Mhm. Oh
to
god, yeah, that's
talk
another
about
one.
him. I will anytime that man rolls up on my TikTok, I
Mhm.
will listen to him because I
Oh,
love him.
oh, I love him. He's a bucket list. Anyone, anytime too. I mean, I know I was kind of talking about Nirvana, but so you can't talk about Nirvana without Dave Grohl either.
Of
Um,
course.
but I mean, I think he's someone that's a bucket list if I could ever just be in the same breathing space with, not even say
Yeah.
anything, not bother him, but just be like, God, you you still like you're just I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was in the same room, and I'm sure anyone listening to this is like
I'd probably just stare
fangirl.
like a weirdo. I would
Right.
just stare like you're like it's like
For sure. Like,
one of
oh,
those things. For me, the main thing, if I'm fangirling, it's not even that I'm gonna talk your ear off. I'm probably just gonna stare at you. And like part of that might be the autism and like because I do go mute a lot. You know, I go nonverbal a lot if I'm like overly excited or if I'm just really nervous and upset. So I would
sure.
probably just stare and you would probably think that I I would probably give Dave for all the creeps. But you know,
I'm sure he's seen enough in his life. I'm sure he
this
would
is true.
not. He'd be like, "All
He's
right,
probably
Justine,
seen weirder things and having this weird girl staring
ex
at him. So
there you go." But it is, but, oh, I mean, we could go on all day about their impact, and I just think God, like, anytime, like,
yeah.
I just they're always in a playlist of mine, there's always everything, and if anyone is listening and somehow never gave them a chance for some reason or just didn't get the hype or whatever reason
Yeah.
it is, go listen and just appreciate what they've done for music because it's truly I truly don't think I would be on the path I am today without getting into that and hearing that and loving Kurt and his image and again, like what you talked about, like what he stood for too. That's so
Yeah.
important what Nirvana always stood for. And even when it was tough to be that way too.
Yeah.
And it is tough now sometimes, but it's a lot easier. And I think back then to have the
Yeah.
mindsets they did,
It
um,
was
it
it
was
was
big.
unheard of.
Mhm.
Like it just nobody else was doing that. And I think that's partially why too they're so loved today even because it's like
Yeah.
they're not problematic like a
No.
lot of people that we grew up with were, you know, and obviously part of that was the times, but also like it really says something if you were somebody that had these beliefs despite everybody around you. But also, I also have to mention that like your favorite album is also my favorite album.
Oh, there we go. I didn't even know that.
I love In Your Utero. I have it on vinyl.
Oh,
My
jealous.
all-time favorite Nirvana song is Frances Farmer will have her revenge on Seattle. That's my all-time favorite Nirvana song. And yeah, but if you're somebody who hasn't gotten into it, like I said, I didn't get into them until it was older. I was probably well out of high school by the time I got into them. And again, like it was hyped up, and I've always been the type of person who's like, oh well, if everybody's listening to them, then I'm not gonna do
Well,
it.
there's a lot
But
that are like that.
yeah, so I would say give it a chance. Um, because like one of my favorite songs is something that's not played on the radio. And I feel like a lot of the songs that I think are great by them are ones that were not heavily in rotation
Oh,
on the
same.
radio.
Same, like, even,
So,
like, the Scentless Apprentice, I can't even talk today. That one on
yes.
Utero, like, I love that one too, and that's another one, like, that I mean, obviously, if you listen to them and you dug in and you were really into them, yeah, you know that one, but, like, some people, they and again, if you're someone like I still love, like, All Apologies, I still love all
Yeah.
those ones too, but, like, I agree, like, the ones that are like the or even I mean, it's on a different record, but, like, the Something in the Way that was used for the Batman,
Yeah, for
um,
Batman.
and it's like when it was in there, I think a lot of people too were like, "Whoa, what is this?" And it was like, see, now that's even opening more people into that, and that one wasn't a big radio one either, but, like, it
Yeah.
hit in that movie, and so many people are like, "Whoa, what is this? I need to find this," and that was really cool too, that, like, all these years later, like and right away, I was like, "Oh my god, they're using this. This is so awesome! Like, this is so fitting and so amazing," but, um, I'm sure a lot of people too were like, "Oh, let me check out this song. I love it."
Oh, yeah.
But it is, but I mean, I think could go on about that, but for you, what is another artist that you say or what is an artist that has impacted you that was, obviously in the 90s, but I'm sure they're still around today,
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah.
So, the first band I'm gonna talk about is No Doubt.
Yay, I didn't e and by the way, everybody I want everybody to know too, we do not know. Um, I had no idea Justine was gonna
Yeah,
say that, so I'm
I
so excited.
I did not share with Lisa ahead of time what
No.
I was gonna talk about, so she has no clue.
Oh god, alright, go ahead, awesome, yes.
Specifically for me, Tragic Kingdom and Return of Saturn, which I know
Oh,
that was technically from 2000, but
but still, we could talk about
you
it.
still tend to think of them from the 90s regardless of the year, but those are the 2 albums specifically that have shaped me. Um, their music is it's fun, it's relatable. They were fronted by a girl.
Mhm,
Uh, Gwen's bold fashion choices definitely paved the way for me to not play it safe when
mhm,
it comes to what I wear. Um, I have always just loved her vocals because they're not your average, like, girly pop singer's kind of voice. Um, I definitely think that they were a gateway for me to get into more alternative music and fashion, obviously, because, like, just the cover of Tragic Kingdom with Gwen and that red, like, vinyl dress
mhm.
and her bright platinum blonde hair with her bright red lipstick is ingrained into my memory for the rest of my life. Like, I will never stop just gushing over this band. Um, I just, oh, yeah, I just, like, I could just go on forever about it. But, I feel like for that time, for like an absolute beautiful woman to be in the front of a male, playing band, which I know that caused a lot of trouble because obviously everybody thinks of Gwen and only Gwen. And that's kind of like something that happens a lot with bands where you focus on the singer.
Mhm.
But as somebody who is female, who has always been a little different, but yet for a while was scared to be different and like play into being different, you know what I mean? Seeing her just be this bold personality with all these boys, um, and just be inherently herself was awesome, you know? And she is probably the reason why I love to sing. I love to sing, and I have always dreamed of being in a band, and that will never happen, but
You don't know that, you don't know that.
I don't know. I don't think I'm that talented,
Oh,
but, like, you know what I mean? It's like
no,
I'm
I get it,
not
I get
that great.
it.
I wish I was, but, like, the dream of being in a band is also because of No Doubt. Absolutely.
That I mean, they impacted so I mean, and for me, it's wild because they were before Tragic Kingdom, they were just such a
Yeah.
ska band, right? And
Yeah.
then they did that, and I think that was cool in itself, but Gwen, to this day, no doubt, I mean, they grabbed me. I mean, I know, obviously, Tragic Kingdom, the 90's, but I'm Return of the Saturn all the way, and that was the reason I dyed my hair pink in high school, and I think nobody dated me forever and ever. Nobody talked to me, but I wanted pink hair like her, and I was set in that, and I
Yeah.
think that it also, like, it's just to also grow up with someone like one that even in her 30's, I think it was, like, she got braces, right? And, like,
Yes, she did.
she did
Mhm.
not care about
No,
well,
like,
at least it seemed that way,
I
right?
was
Like,
gonna
it
say, like,
seemed
she never showed, like, any bit of insecurity in
no.
being herself,
Mhm.
and that was such a inspiration, and honestly, like, I honestly think the pink hair is why I have to dye my hair. Like,
Mhm.
I can't not dye my hair now. It has to be a bright color, or I don't feel like myself, and I honestly think that Gwen is the reason why that had to have been achieved.
I
'Cause
miss
of
that.
that bright pink hair, and honestly, the very first color I ever dyed my hair was bright pink.
Well, there you
So,
go. Well, see, like, and
yeah.
it's wild because like I used to have that. When I tell people that, they're like, no, because like now I have my natural, I mean, I have my couple little highlights and stuff, but it's very, very tame. And it's like back then when I couldn't have tattoos or piercings yet, I would dye my hair those funky colors, because it was like that's what I'm gonna do. And but yeah, no, I mean, I could go on and on about Gwen and, like, what
Oh, I
she
know.
stood for so many things, and that band, no doubt, is just so special, and I think, I got to see No Doubt I mean, obviously later, not in the 90's, but I saw them play,
Yeah.
their tour, and then Paramore opened for them, and I thought that was really cool because it was
That's
almost
like
like
the perfect
oh,
fitting.
it was so good, and
Like,
I feel like it was, like, the passing of that torch from Gwen to Haley, although different
yeah.
music, but, "Hey, you're in a similar boat than me and where I was, and now here you go," and now
Yeah.
Haley's kinda doing that with all these other bands, like, whether it is Meet Me at the Altar or, um, any of these, you see them coming up, and I think that's really, really cool that it's almost like, okay, then Paramore is gonna pass the torch, and I see a lot of similarities where I know Haley didn't like that when they were on tour, where people are like, "Oh, you're like Gwen because the hair color and this and that," but
Yeah.
I think it also says a lot about us women, I think too, like, we do self-expression through our hair and our hair color,
Yeah.
or, like, when I would go through a breakup, I would cut my hair either short, bangs, whatever, I would switch it up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's the thing with the style too, like, oh, I just yeah, no, No Doubt was so important to me too, like,
Oh, yeah.
I love them, and it's another person bucket list. I would love to meet them and meet Gwen one day, but, like, Who knows if that can ever happen, but yes, bucket list
Yeah.
forever.
Oh, definitely. I never got to see them in
Oh,
concert too, so that's why it's
oh
like
my god, you
the fact that you
hopefully
saw them with Paramore too just makes
oh,
it, like, amazing,
ooh,
so
and oddly enough, like, it's weird because it was at the what was the Tweeter Center or whatever that, who knows what it's called now, but anyways, I think we just talked about this too with our last guest, Zach, too. I don't even know what it's called, but maybe
I'm pretty sure you did, and
I
it's
think
funny because in St. Louis, there's a venue that's been changed about a million times for
yeah,
the name too,
for
and,
sure.
like, I always call it the Verizon Wireless Center, and it's been changed, like, a million times since then, and everybody has their like, what they call it because that's
Yeah,
what they remember going to it a lot when they were younger,
but
and yeah,
it's
I feel like there must be one in every city that,
oh,
like, changes its name a million times.
oh, for sure, and what it's wild because I got a pit ticket for it, right? $120. Back then, I was like, "That's so expensive, oh my god," and nowadays, are you
I say
kidding?
that's
Like,
not bad.
no, I
That's
got
not bad.
$120 and it was oh, it was so I think I have a picture, I need to post it because I have a picture from and I zoomed in, um, and it's so clear and, like, oh my god, she's wearing the black and white checkered, like, just the signature Gwen with the red
Oh,
lip,
yeah.
and, yeah, I need to post that on our blogs for sure because I have that of that show, and I oh, so good, but,
I love
oh,
it.
I can't, but I'll go in a different direction with my next one, for sure, but another band that heavily impacted me, um, and this is no surprise to anybody, I think, but Third Eye Blind. I have said it a million times, and I'll say it again, that the self-titled is one of my absolute favorites and one of the best releases front to back that is around. It is a truly flawless record, and I dare anybody to debate that. It is still standing like, it still stands all these years later, and I know, again, I was younger during this time, and some of the, notes, about, like, semi-charmed life, I didn't get, nor should I have gotten at that age, but again, like many of these artists and so many undertones in these poppy fun songs, in reality, like, it was a song about meth addiction, like, again, at my age, was I knowing that? No, I didn't know what a bump was. I didn't know what all this stuff was. I was just loving semi-charmed life and, like, dancing around, and I just liked it, and I think one thing I loved Stephen Jenkins' vocals too, and it's also, like, he has said that, like, um, that song was always about kinda wanting something, and it's about never being satisfied and reaching backwards to things that you've lost and toward the things um that you've never were able to get or you will never get. And I thought that was so interesting because I think in life too, it's like, how often do you do that? Like you'll, you know, go and think about anything you've lost or just in life that maybe didn't happen. And then you kind of focus on those things that will never happen or you may never get and you're not satisfied. And I just would never think that even at this age listening to that. So I thought that was, like, so interesting, and then Jumper was another one I loved so much, and I think, that was about a gay man who jumped off of the Golden Gate Bridge, and again, Stephen Jenkins was saying that, like, he likes that he was able to write these poppy melodies, these fun songs that were radio friendly. Um, but in reality, it was allowing people to enter into something that they would normally not, or they might even be repelled by. Like this was a number one hit, and it was about a friend who happened to be gay jumping off of a bridge to sadly take his own life. And I think it really speaks that so many artists were always talking about these things, but so many either swept it under the rug because they were just like listening to the song and not thinking about it and overlooked it. Um, but I know that we're all older now and can look back and be like, what the hell was I singing to? And I think I've seen some things on TikTok like that too, where they're like, whether it's an R&B song or a rap song or even like this song, it's like, wait, what? I'm singing to what? Like at 8, 10, 11, or whatever it is. And I think so many people have this record as one of their favorites, the self-titled, and I can't imagine if I was that 30 something, like the age I am now, being at one of their shows, um, and have that experience and really live it, because I have not been able to see Third Eye Blind yet ever. And it's not that, like, I wouldn't now, but it's just I don't know. One, I also don't know many people that would go with me, but and that's never stopped me before. It's never stopped me before, but I don't
I would
know.
go with
Oh,
you.
well, we gotta set this up and go, because they still perform, and I know
Yeah, they do.
I'm sure that they're older, and I'm sure people are gonna tell me, "Oh, it's this live," but the specialness of this band, and it's like they're always that warm and fuzzy, and it's like, for me, I remember going into Walgreens to grab the single cassettes they used to have, like TLC had too, and you would go, and then on one side, obviously, there was a single, the next side, whatever, and I wonder if anybody remembers those, because like, that's crazy, like, to think about, and I would have to go get that, and this band just really made such an impact as well, because digging deeper into that 90s alternative sound, Third Eye Blind was the epitome of 90s alt rock. Like, when you hear, like, what is 90s alt rock? If anyone wants to, like, click it in a computer, Third Eye Blind is, like, the picture of that. Like, that college life, or, like, I don't wanna say dad rock, but, like, like, they were that, and it was a bunch of college kids probably really into them, and it just from what I saw, and then there was, like, young me loving motorcycle drive-by and all that, but still to this day, like, I go back and listen to Motorcycle Drive-By, and that was my go-to when any breakup I endured in my teens or early 20s, and, or The Background, or, Graduate. Like, there's so many things in narcolepsy. I'm, like, just, like, listing every single, because it truly is that self-titled, but they released amazing things after that too, but I think that people just thought they had this one record and that was it, or, oh, just that one hit, Jumper, or Semi-Charmed, Life, but they were just, for me, still, like, if I it takes me back when I hear anything about Third Eye Blind, and again, they just really made me, being that young, into this kind of alternative music. It further, like, got me in there, but, um, Justine, did you realize any of these kinda, like, tones in Third Eye Blind stuff, or did you see the impact that Third Eye Blind was really having around? Because I know you're a little younger than I am too, so I can only imagine, like, me being my age and like, "Oh, I love Third Eye Blind," and, like, singing
I'm
about what I'm singing, but, like, what about for you?
I'm only a couple years younger than you,
I
but
know, but still, like, I
not
mean, if I'm, like,
that
what,
much of an
8?
age gap.
If I'm, like, 8
But,
or 10, like, you're like,
um,
you know?
I did not connect, of course, and it's really
Yeah.
funny because I didn't even connect until I was quite a bit older that it
Right?
was about drugs, 'cause it was just a fun song, and I would be,
S
like, dancing to it, and I still
Yeah.
when I was older, then all of a sudden I was like, "They're talking about doing drugs."
I had
And it
no
just, like,
idea.
never hit me for the
No.
longest time, and, like, the same with Jumper because, like, Jumper was sounded so uplifting, but it was not a very happy song. You know what I
No.
mean? Like and like you mentioned about the TikToks even, like, that's been a really big, like, TikTok thing right now is finding songs that we grew up with in the 90s, and it was about, like, something absolutely devastating, but we're all just, like, singing and dancing to it in our rooms, like,
Yeah, like, what?
oh, it's so funny. I don't know what it is about all these sad songs that we grew up with in the 90s or just, like, a heavy hitting, like, dark meanings about it, but it just always went over our heads, and it's just so funny to look back on now.
Oh, yeah, like, it is, and it's I think, again, like, maybe that is, like, when Stephen Jenkins was saying, like, he wrote it in that way, so where you might be like, "Oh, I don't wanna hear about this. I don't wanna hear about addiction, or I don't wanna hear about, somebody taking their own life."
Yeah.
But again, it brings back to the LGBTQ issues even back
Yeah,
then, right? Back
yeah.
then, and writing about that and how it drove someone to take their life, and then now we're facing even, like, I don't wanna say even worse, but we're facing
I mean,
a lot of shit, with that,
it's
you know?
getting worse. It really is. It's the step in the wrong direction, and it's which is upsetting. And I could go on a huge
Well, yeah.
tangent on that, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's just wild to think that it was harder to talk about back then, but and now what is going on in our country, it's kind of hard to talk about now as well, but in a different way.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I love that I still see Third Eye Blind and specifically, like, Steven Jenkins on Twitter. He still is walking that walk in terms of, standing up for those issues, and I love to see that
that's awesome.
even back then, like, I see that still, and I think that's really great, and it's ugh, again, for any reason, if you've not heard this record, please listen, like, they truly still hold up, and I think that's so cool about a lot of these bands, like, no doubt, Nirvana, Third Eye Blind, and I mean, whoever this next band you're about to talk about, I'm sure they're gonna hold up just as well. Who is your next band you're gonna talk about?
Well, next I'm gonna talk about Green Day.
Oh my god! Oh, you know what's so funny is, 1, again, I had no idea, but 2, I feel like they're a band that some people overlook because they assume they were maybe, like, just a 2000s.
I know, well, it's because so, yes, like, they were actually pretty big in the '90s, but then
Right.
once American Idiot came out, it kind of gained more attention to them again,
Mhm.
and so I feel like a lot of people might just really think of them in the 2000s, but for
Yeah.
me, it was the '90s
Mhm.
Green Day that
Yeah.
really impacted me, in particular, Dookie and Nimrod for me.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Um, and it's really funny that we were just talking about songs that we didn't know what they were actually about. Like Longview is one of those because it's about masturbation and smoking pot, which of course went
Is
over our heads.
is that the one that goes like, "And masturbation's lost its fun"?
Yeah,
Oh god, and you know what?
yep,
Someone's gonna kill me, like, that's my horrible singing, everybody. But, like, when you said Longview, I'm like, "Longview,
yeah.
I know
Oh yeah,
this." Oh
yeah,
my god, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
I gotta
it's just
edit that
another one.
out.
Even though he even says masturbation in the song, still didn't think anything of it.
No. Oh my god.
And, like, he's just talking about sitting around masturbating and smoking pot, and it went right over my head, but it was a fun song, so,
There you go.
uh, Juki in its entirety is just one of those albums where there's no skips. Like, all the songs are fantastic, and as you get older, it gets more relatable,
Mhm.
and, like, Basket Case would be on my life soundtrack if my life was made into a movie. Um, I feel like Nimrod in particular doesn't get the love that it deserves. It's one album that I listen to more than any of the other Green Day albums. Um, One of my all-time favorite Green Day songs is called King King for a Day. I might be quoting the name wrong. Gotta forgive me. It's one of those things where you never listen to seen the album, like the song names until much
Yeah.
till recently, and it's like I forget names of songs all the time. But that song in particular is about a boy who dresses in women's clothes and has to go to therapy because his dad didn't agree with it. And in high school, I loved going from girly to androgynous when it came to fashion. Um, and I'm also a queer woman, so I think that song just always kind of hit in a multiple of ways, but also Billie Joe Armstrong is bisexual, and I think that is like amazing for him to be out about, considering like they're not the type of band that you would think of for having a bisexual singer, you know what I mean? Like they're
Mhm.
like a pop punk band. Like they always had this like gritty look to them. So you wouldn't really think of this, but he was like writing songs about it for the longest time before he really even came out, at least to the public, you know? And I love that. And I think that's another reason why I always kind of resonated a lot with Green Day as well, with the idea of having like a tough exterior, but like being different in a multiple of ways, you know?
No, for sure, and I think, like, with Green Day, they're another one, like, one of my favorite songs by them. Oh god, please don't mess this up. It
I already
has to
might have
be on
messed up the song
Dookie.
title.
It has to
Okay.
be on Dookie, Coming Clean, where I'll never
Yeah.
forget that lyric where he's like 17 and strung out on confusion. And, like, I
Yeah.
remember being like, I don't know, I, like, love and I think for me, I've always really, growing up too, respected Green Day because for me, they were that first pop punk love. Like, I thought at that age, and I know someone's gonna look at me and roll their eyes. For me, growing up, Green Day was that first, like, punk ideal band for me. Like, I was
Yeah.
young, so for me, they were punk, and whether people wanted
Yeah.
to argue they were pop punk or they turned into something else or they sold
Well,
out or whatever.
I feel like they started like more at a actual punk base and then they got more pop punk as they went
Mhm.
on.
I
So
it
I don't feel like you're like off base with that. And I feel like anybody that is going to fight you on that is just being kind of gatekeepy and needs to chill
Yeah,
out. So
'cause it's like, to me, they were, and it's like they
yeah.
I loved Green Day. I mean, admittedly, I fell off the Green Day train, later on, but I think
Oh, that
for
same.
for them, they are always that band for me, and I have friends that, like, adore, and they changed their life, and for me, they're another band definitely that impacted me because it was like, wow, like, this is different. This is cool. Wait, there's only 3 people in the band? Like, wow, and
Yeah.
they're doing this, and it again, like Nirvana, it's less than perfect music, but it's fits, and it's good, and it's live. They are one of the best still to this day from videos I've seen. I saw them back in the day with Blink-182. I mean, I and that Pop Disaster, I got so insanely lucky, but, like, seeing them at their both, like, top of their career, the height of their career, and it's like now, I mean, look at them now, like, they're both still around and they're both still
Yeah.
kicking it, and I think that that just says a lot, and they just celebrated the anniversary for Nimrod, and I think, um, I agree with you too, Nimrod does not get the love it
I know.
deserves, which
It
is
really
it's a
doesn't.
shame, and I think people need to
It's
go
so
back to that
good.
one. It
I
is.
really do. I feel like out of all the Green Day albums, I would tell people to listen to that one the most
Mhm.
because everybody knows Dookie. Everybody
Right.
knows Dookie. But Nimrod is has so many good songs on it that it's another one where it's I don't really skip anything.
No.
And and I think out of any albums that I would tell anybody to go back to if they haven't listened to Green Day in a long time would be Nimrod.
100% because that one is so oh, now even after this, I gotta listen to it. Like, when we're on the way to that barbecue, I'll be like, "I gotta listen to this because it's just so good," and, they're just so special, and I think, they're gonna be that one band, I mean, if they're not already considered, will be considered for, like, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because what they have contributed to
Yeah.
music, to the scene, and so many of these younger bands, whether it's pop punk or whatever it is, they they cite Green Day as such an inspiration, and I think
Oh
still
yeah.
and that they're just, anytime anything comes on by them, people are ecstatic and excited and, uh, just thank you, Green Day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It is, and, like, now I'm gonna go very different, um, than Green Day, um, but very important too, definitely to my life, and I'm pretty sure to yours too, but we'll see, I again could go on and on about all these artists. And again, we're going to do another episode because there are just so many artists and the genres too. Like there's so many things that happened in the 90s, but for me with this episode, again, I got to go 9-inch nails because I still vividly remember seeing that music video during the after dark time that MTV had. It was like 11 o'clock at night or whatever. These videos that maybe were a little raunchy or inappropriate, they would air them. And one of those videos was Closer. And I still remember to this day of Trent Reznor licking the mic, um, and a model in the video. And I remember her being interviewed, like, yeah, he licked me for this video. And I was like, what is this? I was just glued to this video, like, this is wrong. I shouldn't be watching this. This is dangerous. I'm young. Like, I'm gonna get in trouble. My parents are gonna come in. I have the remote, like, to turn off, like waiting by the door, like they're gonna come in and but I could not take my eyes off of it. Like, I was just glued, and from then on, I was like, "Alright, like, this is so cool." Like, I was not into industrial music. I was not into anything like 9-Inch Nails, and I think they're a band that, like, nothing and still to this day sounds like them. Like, they are just all their own, and I think that just speaks so much, but I think, again, my younger self just saw something that was, like, I guess, quote, unquote, like, "dangerous," and I guess I always went to those kind of bands and music later on in life that I was like, "Oh, should I be listening to this? Like, not?" And I think of, like, when I got into Corn and I mean, dare I even say, like, Limp Bizkit, like and I was like, "Oh, I can't be listening to this. I gotta hide these CDs," and I would hide my Corn CD in my pillow and, hide, Significant Other by Limp Bizkit too. But, like, it's, like, stuff like that where it was like, "Oh, should I be?" Like, I'm a young girl, and 9-Inch Nails was, again, one of those ones, and I think from being forever hooked on 9-Inch Nails, anything that Trent would touch, I would only get into it, and from them and seeing that, I would only get into louder and more aggressive music, and I feel like that music just stuck with me, and it just made such a huge impact on my life, and too, how Trent Reznor has talked about Downward Spiral, that record, and how nowadays it should probably come with some kind of trigger warning attached to it because what it explores the depression, self-loathing, addiction, and Nine Inch Nails are pioneers for music, and they are truly, uh, the fine wine of a band, in my opinion, because seeing them live now is just that experience you just have to witness, even if you don't even like Nine Inch Nails. You have never heard of them. You have to watch them. Like, you just Riot Fest, whatever festival, wherever the heck you are, you have to see them. And I think Trent has just become such a massive music genius, and I can't believe the work he is doing with the musical scores now for, movies, and I know he worked with Halsey too on her last record too, uh, which is so like, it was one of my favorite Halsey records, and I think probably because of his doing with it and, working with, Atticus too with that, and I think Trent is one of those bucket list of people that I have that one day if I ever got to express how much, like, they've made an impact musically on my life, like, he is up there, top 3, and, um, again, I don't know if that would ever happen, but it is one of those things, and I think, again, you look at, like, the song "Hurt" and how it shows the struggle of Trent and self-harm and, whether it was his addiction or depression, and I think, um, we truly like, we have not seen somebody on stage like Trent and be so massive and just this crazy presence, and yet in his music, he struggled deeply about things he was singing about, and whether us as an audience got it or saw that, like, again, it goes back to, like, the things I struggle with. I can't imagine getting up there and doing that, and maybe that's the cathartic process for them and for him personally, but Nine Inch Nails forever for me, it just got me to explore so many things and their impact on the industrial genre. and that scene, and I just to this day, I don't think we will ever see another Nine Inch Nails, and they are just one of those such a unique band. I mean, anything from earlier stuff to, like, their latest, it is just so good, and I just get such an energetic thing, and, like, again, seeing them live, I highly recommend it. Like, I think people would really change their tune too if they're like, "I can't listen to that. Oh, I can't listen to this." No, like, it will change your mind. Like, it will blow your mind. Just trust me. And I know, um, we kinda talked a little bit before, uh, Justine, just in passing too, a little bit about, like, Trent and Nine Inch Nails and, like, we'll tag each other and stuff. But, I mean, what did you see or witness the impact of Nine Inch Nails, whether it's music or, like, yourself? But I know you are another big fan as well. So, like, for you, what was kinda your take?
Listen, I have a lot to talk about here. So,
Let's go.
and Nine Inch Nails is one of my all-time favorite bands.
Mhm.
Uh, their music gave me and still does give me a lot of comfort. Um, their music videos themselves are just a beautiful art form. If you've
Mhm.
watched any of them, whether the early ones, even to their later ones, are just wonderful. They're dark and gritty, and like you said, came off dangerous and
Yeah.
taboo. Like I was the same way. If you were not a younger kid growing up in the 90s and watching late night
Yeah.
MTV in secret, like, who are you?
Yeah,
Because
it's
we all
right?
did it. Like, literally, not even just with music, but some of their shows they put on. And I was like, is anybody like, I would like listen
Yeah.
carefully, like by the door to make sure
For
nobody's gonna walk in, like,
right, like the
because I'm gonna get in
footsteps,
trouble.
like, what's going on? Like,
Yeah,
oh god.
like put the volume down really low, but just enough so you can still hear it. You're just
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And then you have legends like David Bowie and Johnny Cash who recognize the
Mhm.
importance of their work. Um, Trent has touched on so many things in lyrics that I personally struggled with in the past and even now. I'm still finding new ways to relate to this day listening to them. Hurt always got to me as somebody who struggled with self-harm and did and still do struggle with self-loathing. Um, and as a grown adult who is in burnout and tends to dissociate a lot because of the burnout or um, trauma flashbacks, uh, every day is the same is one that resonates really big. Um, this is the only band that me and my brother have ever bonded over.
I love
Um,
that.
it's so funny because they're on brand for me. I'm a goth kid.
Mhm.
Like, it fits me to a T to love Nine Inch Nails. But my brother on the other side is completely opposite of me. He was popular in school. He is a athletic person. He just has always dressed very normal. Like, but he grew to love Nine Inch Nails, so we still to this day keep in touch about Nine Inch Nails news and stuff. Uh, like for instance, finding out that Trent and I think Atticus as well is going to compose the music for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja
Yes.
Turtle stuff,
Oh my
which,
god.
like, it's another thing that me and my brother bond over is because we grew up loving that, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and we were just like, oh my god, like the crossover with that is hilarious. Um, and I also just want to say how much I just love that Trent has to have a great sense of humor because when that episode of Black Mirror came out and Miley Cyrus made a pop version and changed the lyrics to Head Like a Hole, I absolutely was dying when that episode was airing. I was like, "Oh my god,
So
this is
admittedly
so funny."
admittedly, I have never heard that because I was into Black Mirror, and then I just didn't
No,
watch that one. So now you hearing that, I was like,
you
"Wait,
have to
what?"
watch that
So that is
episode.
on my either tonight or whenever
That
I'm
should
off.
be, like,
Yes.
immediate.
Yes.
And
Oh my
I
god.
almost am positive that Nine Inch Nails made T-shirts with the Miley lyrics on it,
Really?
'cause instead of had, like, a whole it's "I'm on a roll," and it's just, like,
Oh
this,
my
like,
god.
positive, like, pop it's so funny, and you can't tell me that this man doesn't, like, have a great sense of humor to be able to let that happen, because I was dying, and I know that was, like, a big, like, a thing on social media sites with Nine Inch Nails too, because we all thought it was the funniest thing ever. Like, "Did you hear that new Miley Cyrus song? So great."
Oh my god, like, I'm looking it up. Like,
Yeah, no, it's so
oh
funny.
my god. Alright, that's a must. So anybody else too, that is a must for you as well, because that's amazing. Like, did not know that.
Oh, yeah. Like,
Wow.
I've always been a huge Black Mirror fan, so
Mhm.
when that crossover happened, which I was not aware of it until I watched it, and then when everybody kinda watched it, everybody kinda talked about it, but, like, so funny. It's
Wow.
just so funny.
That's so, like, like, and again, like, I think too, I think that's what it's interesting too, because I think so many people thought, or still do, that Nine Inch Nails is like, oh, they're just serious. They can't have any sense of humor. You know what I mean? Like, they can't,
I know,
and I
and
think we don't know them personally, right? We're like, but
yeah,
like, and I think too, like Trent is another one of those. It's like on that pedestal, larger than life.
he
Like,
he definitely is, and it's like you said, like, I think people see this, like, dark music, and it's very intense, and it's
Mhm.
hard to think that anybody who makes music like that, that are angry and really sad, are anything but angry and sad, which obviously not. Like, there's so many of us that are, like, in the goth subculture, for instance, that, like, we look really dark and mopey and we like some sad music, but, like, does that mean we don't like to sit and watch really stupid, funny things? Absolutely not.
Right.
Like,
Oh, and I think it's also too, it's weird because, like, I think if people see what I look like now, right? They're like, "No
yeah,
way do you like," if I when I have seen them in the crowd, they're like, "No way do you like Nine Inch Nails," and I'm like, "I could totally school you on all this stuff, like, keep
oh
it
yeah,
keep it to yourself," because I love them so much, but it's like it's almost like that too, like, for me, it was one of those things where, you saying, you're goth and that's your thing and you're
yeah,
just everything about you, but it's like for me, it was like one of those things when I got into them, it was like, well, am I accepted by this culture, right? Because
yeah,
I am totally not like, yeah, there was a period I'll go there and say like I shopped at Hot Topic, right? And I was all into that. But that's a very different thing than truly being in that culture and about
yeah,
that, right? And it was like me, it was another one of those things like we've talked about a few episodes back with like No Effects or any of these other bands where it's like, "Ooh, can I fit in here?" And I will say, like, even going to see Nine Inch Nails, I was really scared because I was like, "Oh god, am I gonna be called a poser or whatever?" Like, and most accepting fans ever,
oh
greatest
yeah,
time
yeah,
ever. Like, I had nothing to be worried about, but I think maybe that was another thing, maybe people around me with Nine Inch Nails were like, maybe I can't be for the same reasons, right? Like, "Oh, I'm
yeah.
not accepted," you know? But, like, I will say, like, again, like, oh, just go see them live. The impact they've made on music and even like Trent now with these musical scores and just everything, the impact that he has now, it's like they're another one that's going to be inducted. And if they haven't already, I don't think they have.
I lose track of who's been inducted
Same.
and who hasn't
I,
anymore because they do
I,
it in such huge quantities that
right. And it's
it's easy to
weird.
forget.
It's weird too because I remember seeing a video where he got to induct, and introduce Robert, Smith from I almost said Plant and someone would kill me. I know it's Robert Smith from The Cure,
Yeah.
and that was such a big deal for him because he was such a Cure fan, and I was like, "Wow," like, I can't think of that, and it's just is like these bands, like, just, I mean, again, and I know Nine Inch Nails is why I keep diving into these either weird or these sounds that maybe I wouldn't have had I not found them and like something grabbed me. I don't think like when I hear like head like a hole and I'm driving, I'm just like, oh, cranking it up and like,
Mhm.
let's just like I just love his vocals. I love what Nine Inch Nails really represents in the genre. And just go listen to Nine Inch Nails. I mean, they've been around forever, but for whatever reason, go do it for yourself and get ready for the Ninja Turtles movie and that
Yeah,
music. Um,
can't wait.
but what is your final band for today that you're gonna I'm interested, I'm like, what could it be? Like, I have no idea.
So, the last band that I'm gonna talk about is the Spice Girls.
Oh my
That's right, everybody. Anyone
god.
anyone who knows me knows I still get on a huge kick to this day, and you can laugh all you want. They are the best-selling girl group of all time. Um, they taught feminism to so many of us at a young age, and 5 different girls with different personality traits meant there was always someone a girl could relate to, and I think that in itself was just ingenious because, like, so many of us girls growing up, like, that was important to us. If there was somebody we could relate to, whether it was on a show or when it came to music, the fact that there were 5 different kinds of girls on in this music group meant that there was always somebody that you could gravitate towards. And they were uplifting and always made you feel that you were capable of anything. They were fashion icons. Every time you see platforms and the Union Jack on any kind of clothes, you're going to think of them.
Uh-huh.
They knew how to merchandise and we ate it up. There were suckers with stickers to collect. They had Barbies. They had stationery. They had clothes. They had a movie. Um, like they were definitely a gateway to me still loving feminist music to this day. And let's face it, there was an easy transition from poppy looks with platforms to being a goth with demonias. Okay, like there's still platforms, and I'm able to still kind of transition into that. And that's why my friends have nicknamed me Spooky Spice because I would be the goth Spice Girl.
Oh
Okay.
my god, really quick, not to interrupt you, but that is why you're Spooky Spice?
Exactly.
Oh my god, this whole time I didn't know. I thought, but I had no idea.
That is 100%
Oh my god.
why I use
I love it,
Spooky
I love it.
Spice. I use a Spooky Spice for screen names, and I also use Punk Rock Mary Poppins for
Yeah.
names because uh growing up, not growing up, but being in the career of childcare for a decade, and I have never shied away from dressing alternative in my line of work. Obviously, toned down, but still alternative. And I had families nickname me the punk rock Mary Poppins, and I have just worn that as a badge of honor. So, but I'm not ashamed of my obsession with them. They definitely made me who I am today, and I'm super grateful for it. And I don't think people, like especially girls, realize that they are like quintessentially. I can't even say that word.
But I know me either. But
Quintessentially,
there you go.
like, had was the introduction into feminism for
Mhm.
most girls. A mixture of Spice Girls and just Barbie. And I know a lot of people, you either loved Barbie or you hated Barbie, but the message of Barbie was also always you're a girl, but you are able to do whatever you want. That's why Barbie has a gazillion careers because you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or not. Which, by the way, I'm super psyched for the Barbie movie when it comes out. I'm very pumped about it. But I don't think people connect those two things to feminism, but they really are. It's the, you know, introduction to feminism are both these things. And it definitely shaped me into what I am today and to empowering other women, um, to still empowering the little girls that I take care of. I currently have the little girl that I nanny into Spice Girls
Oh my
currently.
god, I love
Like,
that.
she requests Spice Girls all the time. She loves to look at pictures of them. Um, and we share that, and it's just it's a great like I said, a great introduction into, you know, believing in women and supporting other women. It's definitely shaped me. So I love them and I'll always love them.
I love that because I have to agree. Like I grew up, I was all in on the Spice Girls, and I used to also recreate little music videos with my friends that we were the Spice Girls. Each of us were
Oh, I
one
love
of,
it.
one of them, and I think I loved that because
I
like
feel like we all did that. We all had the
right?
one that we pretended to be. I was Baby Spice.
Oh, surprisingly, like I was posh Spice. And you know what?
Oh,
And you
interesting.
know
I
what?
wouldn't have chosen that for you.
I
That's
had
funny.
no idea, like, no, I would not be like, I think it was also honestly, I also thought Victoria Beckham was just, beautiful, and then
Well, that's
I
because she
also
is.
I mean, she's still right, and then I
She's
think,
stunning.
because of her brunette hair, we both had the short like, we both had the style at
Yeah.
times, so that's why. It was nothing about her
No, that totally
personality,
makes sense.
um
That's how I was with Disney princesses.
yeah, like
So I was drawn to the ones with long dark hair. So
mhm,
Jasmine and Pocahontas. I was really into Belle too because my hair wasn't as long yet, but
mhm.
that's the thing. Like if they kind of looked like you,
Yeah.
you just gravitated towards them more.
And that right, and I had no business, like, posh, like, no way, not even now, right? But, like,
Oh my gosh.
seriously, like, I love that, and I loved during that time, it was all, like, girl power, and it was
Yes.
I loved that because they kind of also showed you in your friend group, right? Like, you could be so
Yeah.
many different people, and in your little group of girls or whatever friend group, like, you could all be different, and I think that
Yeah.
carried with me too later in life, like, I'm almost like that, I don't know who I'd be now, but, like, I feel like I'm one of those people that, like, in any friend group I'm in now because, like, my tattoos and, like, my music and this and that, like, I don't fit that mold of, "Let's watch," and I'm not downing anyone right now, but let's watch, like, HGTV, let's go get our nails done, let's go, let's talk about gardening or whatever it is, and that's cool if that's your thing. I love anyone that is into those things, but I'm almost like that weird oddball where I'm like, "Oh, like, I got this music podcast," or like, "I'm going to the show still at my age," or like this new band or, whatever I'm talking about, like, I'm still that oddball, and I loved that
Yeah.
the Spice Girls showed you that whether you're an oddball or, whatever personality you are, you can have a place in your friend group and
Yeah.
that kind of togetherness that I don't think even later in girl groups that they tried with like
Yeah,
um
nobody was as successful.
nobody was
Like,
successful as
that's
that.
why they still have that record of being the most successful girl group because no one's been able to touch that. And I don't think anybody's really ever thought about how successful they were because they were
No.
and they still are.
Because some people I
Um,
think thought they were like a joke. To be honest, I think some people do think
I
that.
honestly still think people think that, and it's not, like, they were a big deal and they still are, and, especially over in the UK, if you look into, the Spice Girls, you'll see that, like, for some reason, a lot of groups had trouble being popular in the States, and they were the first one to really crack that code and get really popular over the States. Like, obviously, like, the Beatles, but I mean, since that, time, they were the first ones to really crack that code, especially when it came to girls. Um, and I think people need to give them a little more credit because they were a big deal and they still are a really big deal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's so many of us, like me in particular, like I'm waiting for them to get back together and go tour because I never got to see them, so I really want to be able to go see them. Like, I right before COVID, I got to go see the Backstreet Boys for the first time, and the Backstreet Boys was my boy group,
Mhm.
and I never got to see them when I was younger. So, and like I said, I live in the 90s. I will always be like stuck on 90s things, okay? Like it's just how it is.
Which
The
is
fashion,
awesome. Yeah,
the
oh, yeah, the
music,
fashion, and it's coming back, that's the thing,
and
like, look, it is coming back, so it truly was special because all that butterfly
yeah.
clips, all that stuff is coming back.
And it's just like my mom knew like I've always been like devastated that I didn't get to go see these bands. Like I got to see a lot of things I loved,
Right.
when I was younger, but like Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys, those were my two like those were my things and I never got to see them. So my mom gave me Backstreet Boys tickets for Christmas and she was so excited she was able to get them and I was fairly close. So it was great and they were just as great now being old as they were when they were younger. So I really hope that the Spice Girls get back together and go tour because I would love to be able to see them. But I think, like we were saying, like the fact that you were posh, like I was Baby Spice, and I think that a lot of people would think that's funny now because, like, I don't think people would
Right. Oh,
necessarily
no.
choose Baby Spice for me, but I was obsessed with Baby Spice, like on Spice World, the bus, her part of the bus, she had a swing. She
She
like
just always looked like she was having a good time.
she had stuffed animals. I
Yeah,
loved her
yeah.
outfits. Like I loved her. She always had a sucker. Like, like and being a goth person, like I said, like for me, like it my favorite things are if you mix spooky stuff with cute things. So like if you really think about it, Baby Spice does make sense to a certain extent. But yeah, no, I even had a cat named Baby, so people thought I named my cat after the Spice Girl. I didn't. Her name was Baby because we could never think of a name for her. So it's just what her name was. But because people knew I was really into the Spice Girls and I loved Baby Spice, they thought I named her after Baby Spice, which I did not.
That's oh, but that's it is like that. I would never have suspected that. But then when you explain it, it
Yeah.
does make sense.
Yeah.
That's just so cool. I hope that they do. I know there's a lot of rumors out there, but um I'd love to see that come back because I think
Yeah.
again, if young girls had that, and but again, at the same time, we all had that, and there was still like, the mean girls and stuff. Even
Yeah.
though we have,
There's still Mean Girls, but I
but
think
I
they
loved
helped.
that.
Yeah, like, I think they definitely helped, like I said, they're like a gateway. Like, so if you
Hmm.
liked them, they kinda helped you to find other feminist groups,
Yeah.
like, who knows? Like, if I didn't get the Spice Girls, I might never have gravitated to Bikini Kill.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, it helped, and I'm sure they helped me to my feminist stance today, like, putting it out there. But it is another reason why I try to get little girls in the Spice Girls because I
I
think
love that.
I think it's important, and they're fun and it's just great to dive into. And if you're a little girl, having all these awesome women, doing their thing and loving other women and being there for each other, I think it's super helpful for when you're growing up. So,
And I mean, we got to just say too, if "Wannabe" comes on at a wedding, everybody is singing that. I don't care if
oh yeah.
you're the manliest man ever. I've seen you. You've done it, and it's amazing. And I think they're just. Oh, I just also love in this one that we did to kind of, I guess, wrap it up for this series. But like, because we're gonna do more because I even thinking like when we were talking, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't talk about them. Oh duh, we're doing another
Yeah.
one, so it doesn't matter. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I have to talk about Gavin Rossdale because that's my first
Oh
crush
yeah.
ever in my life, and I love. But like, it just is like I think something so cool about all these bands, and although they're different, which I love, and I think they made such an impact on us and others. And I guess if you're someone listening to this and you were impacted too, let us know because we definitely want to know. And um, again, you can leave us voice messages too, guys. I just want to kind of throw that in there that I will throw up a link I did before. So if you have a question, like say you're listening to this and you're like, oh, like what about this? Or I felt that way too. You can talk to us and I would love to
Yeah.
hear it. That'd be so cool. So I'll post that link. It's on our Spotify for podcasters page, which is kind of hard to find. At least it was for me. So I'll post it. But we want to know, we want to hear from you guys how they've impacted you because I mean, as you heard, like Justine and I, although talking about, you know, similar stories from each band, right? Like we all had a different take, and I think that's so cool. So I think the 90s were just that amazing era. And again, like these bands are still loved. So that says so much about the music. And I think we can only hope like this era we're in now, whatever it's called. But um has bands like that too. And I think it just is they're just so special. And it's been a really fun talking about the 90s. And now I have to go listen to that Nine Inch Nails, Miley Cyrus. I have to go listen to that, like, I have to now. I can't believe I did not know that. So if you're someone else too, please go listen to that too and let me know because 'cause I'm literally when we stop recording, before I head out for the day, I'm definitely going to listen to that and check that out. But, again, we wanted to thank you guys for listening to this one, and as always, too, you guys, can head over to our website if you missed it in the beginning for whatever reason. It is obviously stereotherapypod.com, and, um, yeah, we will see you next Tuesday, and we will have some more topics to share, and we just appreciate you guys for letting us do this and listening to our little podcast. It means a lot. So we will see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.